My mother takes great pride in the land, in nurturing it, in getting the best yields from it. We, not so much. We take pride in our conqueror genes. And she would snort and say, as if your armies marched on empty stomachs. When Amma was married into my father's family, she took over the family lands and turned them into fertile fields. Mangoes, chiku, guavas, amla, coconut, paddy, groundnut. If there was a crop that could be grown in that soil, she grew it. Years passed and Amma stopped farming. She was older, she had less energy, and none of us children had taken an interest in the lands, which were now leased out to tenant farmers. I had gone home for a visit some years ago. It rained unexpectedly and it was beautiful. The perfect weather actually for tea and pakodas and old romantic songs. And I would spend hours sitting on the terrace looking out at the dark clouds rolling in, low and cool and grey. Peacocks would call and they would dance and their tails would be a shimmering fan of green and blue. And they were everywhere. If there was a paradise, it had to be close to this. Amma's face, however, looking at the same clouds was grim, and it didn't take too long to understand why. We had visitors that evening. 3 men who had leased her lands. When you think of farmers, what image comes to your mind? Men with tanned, wiry bodies maybe, with towels wrapped around their heads and waists and eyes sunken with fear. They fit the stereotype. They'd come to see Amma to tell her that the rains had devastated their crops which were to be harvested in a few days. They'd come to say that their season's labour was now rotting in the fields and to ask for some time to pay her dues. Amma asked if they'd approach the local authorities for help. We don't know how. They didn't know what schemes were available to get help from, whom to approach, how to fill in the many forms that had to be filled in over and over. They had neither the money nor the emotional energy to deal with the sharks that could help them with all this for a fee, of course. And they were faced with immediate hunger, immediate debt, with the crushing knowledge that after the last few months of sweat and toil, they had nothing. And when the aid finally came in, if it did, they knew that they couldn't get it without paying a commission to those who gave out the aid as if they were doing these farmers a favor. Until that day, they had to borrow even more money from the local money lenders at interest rates that ensured a lifetime of mounting and definitely unrepayable debt. I couldn't eat that night. It's hard to watch a grown man cry that he would have nothing to feed his children with and then sit down to eat. Amma placed a serving of rice on a banana leaf in front of me. Eat. She said, "This is our life. You will forget when you go back to the city." Over the last few days, we've been talking about the new agricultural laws. The laws are not all bad, she said. In fact, we need them. You can't tie a sapling tight to a stake and expect it to grow into a tall, strong tree. But you can't also yank the stake away and expect the tree to grow. Just like you can't go into the field and scatter seeds and expect a bumper crop. The soil has to first be prepared. The majority of our farmers are small farmers who sell their crop wherever they can. They're not like the bigger farmers of Punjab and Haryana, and unlike the mandis there and the middlemen who actually have the most to lose now. Small farmers in the rest of the country who have no access to that kind of infrastructure actually have nothing to lose or gain by the new laws. And you know why? It's because they have nothing to help them take their crop to the best markets. They have no awareness of market demands, of best practices, or the aid available to them. They have no bargaining power. They have no trouble-free access to anything beneficial to them. And of course they are afraid of being at the mercy of greedy middlemen, of traders and now corporates. Yes, we need freedom to sell where we want, to whom we want. But we also need help to transition. For too many years, she said, we've been handed seeds and pesticides and fertilizers and told to farm in a certain way for high-yielding crops. And these are not crops we are used to growing. These are not foods we eat. We've lost our traditional farming practices. We grow wheat and a few varieties of rice, forgetting our millets. We monocrop without breaks. Why do you think farmers burn stubble? And we wonder what happened when we follow all these rules, and yet year on year we get less yield, leading us to use more pesticides, more chemical fertilizer, knowing we are poisoning the earth, not knowing how to get out of this vicious cycle we are trapped in. We continue, unable to change our current farming methods, because what will we eat in the time the soil needs to rest and regenerate? We need more local farming bodies, not traders' unions. We need support to switch to older, gentler ways of farming. We shouldn't have to fear a bumper crop almost as much as we fear drought. We need roads, we need trucks, a cold chain. Without all of this, we're enacting toothless laws. And we need not people shouting about things they don't understand, but for those people to spend time with us, getting hands and feet dirty, sowing seeds, watching crops growing, standing by us to harvest what we have collectively grown. We need the school and college education system changed to make it compulsory for every child to spend time getting to know the soil, to know the effort it takes to grow what they eat, and also to know how, with our current farming practices, we poison what we eat. Now nobody knows, nobody cares, unless it's a sensational headline, and even then, only till something new comes along. How will you love something if you don't know it? And if you don't know it and love it, how will you save it? How many of you protesting will take the trouble to do more than just protest? Forget the protesters, what will you do beyond writing about it? Enough, she said. I don't want to talk about it anymore, it's no use. My mother takes pride in the land, in nurturing it, in getting the maximum yield out of it. One time, we had a crop of tomatoes, a bumper crop. The luscious, juiciest, ripest, most delicious tomatoes that we couldn't get enough of. There would be baskets of them at home at any time. Just my luck, Amma would say. We farmers never know how to time the market. We didn't care. We didn't care about demand or supply or cold chains. We didn't care about trucks to take the crops where it was needed. We didn't care about prices. Middlemen who made more in a season than the farmers did in a dozen years. We didn't care about monocropping, mandis, and the land soaking in pesticides. If we wanted a snack, we cut up the readily available tomatoes, sprinkle sugar or salt on them, and stuff ourselves till we couldn't eat anymore, and go away sticky and dirty and happy. We were children. That's all that mattered.